Let me ask you something uncomfortable. You wake up early, you stay late, you skip lunches, you answer emails at midnight, you give everything you have to your job, and at the end of the month, you check your bank account and it looks almost exactly the same as it did 30 days ago. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, there's a guy who hasn't set an alarm in 3 years. He's not a genius. He didn't go to a better school than you. He doesn't work harder than you. In fact, by most definitions, he barely works at all. And he made more money last month than you'll make this entire year. That's not a fairy tale. That's not some lucky exception. That's a pattern happening all around us, and most people are completely missing why. Here's the truth nobody told you in school, and nobody tells you at work. Hard work and wealth are not the same thing. They never were. But for a very specific window in history, they seemed like they were, and we built an entire belief system around a lie. Today, we're going to break that lie apart, and by the end of this video, the way you think about money, time, and effort will never be quite the same. Picture your grandfather's generation. You showed up, you worked 30 years at the same factory or the same firm, you were loyal, you were reliable, you were hardworking, and in return, the system rewarded you. Pension, stability, a house that quietly doubled in value, a retirement that actually worked. Hard work did pay off then, and so that lesson got passed down, parent to child, generation to generation. Work hard and you'll be fine. The problem? The world those people were describing doesn't exist anymore. In the last 40 years, something fundamental shifted. Wages, adjusted for inflation, have barely moved for the average worker, but the cost of housing, education, and healthcare, those have exploded. The math that made hard work a reliable path to wealth simply stopped adding up. But here's the psychological trap. We are terrible at updating old beliefs, especially beliefs we learn from people we love and trust. Psychologists call this belief perseverance, the tendency to hold on to an idea even after the evidence for it has collapsed. We heard "work hard and you'll succeed" so many times in so many different ways that it became an identity, not just a strategy. So now, millions of people are working harder than any generation in history, clocking more hours, juggling side hustles, running on 4 hours of sleep, and wondering why they still feel financially stuck. They don't question the strategy. They blame themselves. They think, "I must not be working hard enough." But what if the strategy itself is broken? Here's the concept that changes everything, and I want you to really sit with this. There are fundamentally two ways to make money in this world. The first way, you trade your time for money. You show up, you work, you get paid. Stop working, stop getting paid. This is how almost every job on earth operates, and it's how most people spend their entire lives. The second way, your money or your assets make money for you, even while you sleep, even while you're on vacation, even while you're doing absolutely nothing. Now here's where it gets interesting. These two systems don't just produce different results, they produce exponentially different results over time. Let's use a simple example. Imagine two people, Maya and Daniel. Both are 25, both earn $40,000 a year. Both work equally hard. Maya follows the traditional path. She spends what she earns, maybe saves a little, and focuses entirely on climbing the ladder, hoping bigger salaries will eventually solve the problem. Daniel does something different. He lives on slightly less, invests 15% of his income consistently, and starts building what we'll call assets, things that generate returns whether he's working or not. Fast forward 20 years, Maya has had promotions, her salary has grown, she's worked incredibly hard, but her wealth, it grew mostly in a straight line, dependent entirely on her continued effort. Daniel, however, his investments have been compounding, returns building on returns. The money he invested at 25 is now making money that makes money. His wealth didn't grow in a straight line, it curved upward. By 45, the gap between them isn't a little bigger, it's enormous. Not because Daniel was smarter, not because he worked harder, but because he understood a rule that Maya was never taught. That rule is called compound growth, and it's the single most misunderstood force in personal finance. Albert Einstein reportedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Money that grows, and then the growth itself grows, creates a curve that eventually becomes almost vertical. The longer you let it run, the more violent the upward slope becomes. But here's what compound growth requires: assets, things that grow, stocks, index funds, real estate, a business, intellectual property. These are the vehicles. Hard work alone, without an asset attached to it, doesn't compound. It just repeats. Now let's go deeper, because this is where it gets really interesting. Why do most people never escape the time for money trap? It's not laziness, it's not stupidity. It's actually something much more fundamental. It's the way our brains are wired. Humans are built for immediate rewards. We evolved in environments where you had to find food today, not plan for food 5 years from now. Psychologists call this present bias. We instinctively overvalue what we can have right now and dramatically undervalue what we could have in the future. Investing feels like loss in the present. You take real money out of your hands today, money you could spend on something tangible, something enjoyable, and you put it into a number on a screen that might go up or might go down. Your brain doesn't like this. Your brain says, that's a sacrifice, that's pain, and the reward is abstract? 20 years away? No thanks. Meanwhile, spending feels like winning. You exchange money for something real, a meal, a trip, new clothes. There's a hit of dopamine. There's immediate satisfaction. Your brain says, yes, this is what money is for. And so, without ever consciously deciding it, most people end up optimizing for feeling wealthy right now, instead of becoming wealthy over time. This is why you see people who earn 6 figures living paycheck to paycheck. The income is there, the assets are not. The money comes in, the money goes out, spent on the feeling of wealth rather than the building blocks of it. There's another psychological layer here too. We tend to measure wealth by what we see: the nice car, the watch, the house, the expensive vacation. But actual wealth, the kind that gives you freedom, is almost invisible. It's the index fund nobody talks about at dinner. It's the investment account that quietly grows for a decade before anyone notices. It's boring, it's invisible, and it doesn't get you likes on social media. Morgan Housel, who wrote one of the best books about money psychology, put it this way: wealth is what you don't spend. The person who looks rich and the person who is rich are often completely different people. We've been taught to confuse the performance of wealth with the reality of it, and that confusion is costing an entire generation their financial future. So what do you actually do with all of this? First, and this is crucial, stop measuring your financial progress by your income alone. Income is a tool. What matters is what you build with it. A high income spent entirely is just a fast treadmill. The goal isn't to earn more. The goal is to own more, assets that work for you. Second, understand that you don't need to be rich to start investing. This is one of the most damaging myths in personal finance. People say, I'll start investing when I have more money. But that logic is exactly backwards. You start investing to eventually have more money. You don't need thousands, you need consistency. Even small amounts, invested regularly over time, do extraordinary things through the power of compounding. Think of it this way. Every dollar you invest is a tiny employee. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't take weekends off, It just quietly generates small returns, which generate more returns, which generate more returns. The more employees you hire, the more dollars you invest, the less dependent you are on trading your own time. Third, get very honest with yourself about what you're spending money on. Not to punish yourself, but to ask a simple question. Is this expense moving me toward ownership or keeping me in the time for money loop? Not every expense is bad. Spending on experiences, relationships, and your health often has incredible returns. But spending to perform wealth, to look like you're doing well, almost always keeps you from actually doing well. Fourth, understand that your most powerful financial asset right now might not be your savings account. It might be your time horizon. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you have something genuinely extraordinary, decades of compounding ahead of you. Every year you wait is a year of growth you can never get back. The person who starts at 25 and invests consistently doesn't just end up slightly ahead of the person who starts at 35. They end up dramatically ahead, often with twice the wealth, not because they contributed twice as much, but because their money had an extra decade to multiply. Time is the ingredient that turns ordinary investing into extraordinary outcomes. And unlike money, you can't borrow more of it. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. The old story about work and wealth made sense in a different world. And the people who told it to you, your parents, your teachers, your society, weren't lying. They were passing on what had been true for them. Hard work did matter. It still matters. But in isolation, it's no longer enough. The world shifted, the rules changed, and the people who are building real wealth today understand something quiet and powerful. They are not just workers, they are owners. Owners of assets, owners of investments, owners of systems that produce value whether they show up or not. The goal isn't to stop working hard. The goal is to point your hard work in the right direction, not just toward a bigger paycheck, but toward building things that compound. Because here's the uncomfortable truth at the center of all of this. If the only thing growing in your life is your salary, then the day you stop working is the day the growth stops. But if you own assets, if you've been quietly building a portfolio, an investment account, a piece of something that produces returns, then your financial story doesn't end when your alarm doesn't go off. It just keeps going. Work hard, but build harder. That's the game nobody taught us, and it's the only game worth playing.